Hi, my name is Dan. I'm the owner and founder of Torque Barbell, and I'm in my 10th year as a trainer, self-employed. I'm in my 7th year as a gym owner. I'm going to tell a little bit about the history of Torque and how I got started as a personal trainer, and kind of the things I did to help grow the business and start basically from the back of my truck into what we have here, which is Torque Barbell today. I got into lifting pretty young. I had a severe back injury when I was 13 years old. I was always an athlete growing up, and playing hockey, I hurt my back. So from there, I did a lot of physiotherapy a couple times a week at the hospital. The physiotherapist introduced me to deadlifts, hamstring curls, back extensions, things like that to help strengthen my erectors, to help protect my spine. And so that was really my first introduction into weight training and getting stronger when I was 13 years old. From there until I was about 15, I kept doing the physiotherapy, I kept working out. I really noticed how working out and strength training, not really nutrition, but just the working out part of it really started to get me strong. When I went into high school, I was a little kid. My nickname was Little Dan. I wasn't really bullied or anything like that, but I also wasn't a physical presence in the school or anything like that. On the first day of school, I got my backpack stolen and my cell phone and things like that. But again, I wasn't really bullied. A couple of my buddies started working out at a local high school gym, the gym beside the high school. And so I got a fake ID to go start working out with them. Around this time, my parents also let me set up a bench press and a squat rack in the basement. I'd go after school either to the gym beside the school with my buddies, or I'd go lift in my basement, and just started getting stronger. I got videos of me doing deadlifts in the basement with no lights. We were in the middle of moving, and so there was no lights in the basement. I cleared a space for my squat rack, for my bench press, and I go down after school by myself, no music, just with a desk lamp, lighting kind of my space, and I just would lift for hours and hours. So again, I was about 15 years old at this point, and lifting kind of came natural to me. By the time I was 16, I was squatting 275, I was benching 210, and I think I was deadlifting 350, 365 maybe. I somehow stumbled across powerlifting, maybe on the internet. It just kind of started. There was a couple message boards, a couple forums. I remember seeing pictures of Frank McGrath from Animal Pack, and just really wanting to get jacked, just wanting to be huge. And so from there, started really stepping up the training, again, doing more squats. I was doing overhead press, I was doing chin-ups. I was doing chin-ups with, I could do about 20 pretty easily with body weight. So I put bricks in my backpack, and I started banging out weighted chin-ups with bricks in my backpack. I had no idea how much it weighed, but I knew that it was hard. So again, like I said, I found powerlifting and I started training for my first competition. I went to a local fitness store nearby to get to buy a belt and knee wraps, and when I went in, I met Joe Peacock. Joe was a former powerlifter in the 80s and 90s, great lifter. He had won the national championships a bunch of times. He'd been to the world championships. He competed with guys like Ed Cohen. He competed at 198 pounds, which was kind of the next weight class, or 2 weight classes above. So I really aspired to be like him, and he was jacked. When I was in there, I told him what I was doing. He kind of gave me some tips and stuff. I think I went and did my first powerlifting meet by myself. I don't think at that point I was training with him. Again, just in my basement with a couple buddies at the local gym. And I went to my first meet. I think I got 3rd place. I squatted. I was equipped, so I think I squatted 375. I benched mid 200s, and I deadlifted 418 at 17 years old. So that was my first competition. I went back to Dotmar, that's where Joe was after, and spoke to him and just asked him, hey, are you looking for any part-time work this summer? I think the competition was in March or April, and so this would have been now probably May, and I asked him if he needed any part-time help. So he hired me on for the summer, and that summer the guys that worked at Dotmar, I was doing deliveries and just random things in the shop, cleaning up, painting weights, organizing, making sales, things like that. And the guys, the older guys who worked there, Joe and Chris and Hy and a couple other guys, they'd go to one of the main gyms in the area, and they'd go there before work. So we would start work at 10, they'd meet there at 8:30, we'd lift till about 9:30, 9:45, and then we go to work. And I remember them saying, like, you're gonna be the only guy that's not coming to work out, and obviously I wasn't gonna be that guy. I loved working out. So I went and I met them there every morning at 8:30. I got videos of me working out with these guys, and I'm a kid. I'm like, at this point, 165 pounds. Again, I just done my first powerlifting meet. I thought I was pretty tough. I thought I was a pretty good lifter. And the patience that these guys had kind of teaching me and showing me the ropes. I don't know how they did it. I guess I just kind of kept my mouth shut and did the work, and I just followed along. I asked questions where I needed to. And so working for Dotmar, doing the fitness equipment deliveries and working in the store, that was my first introduction into the fitness industry. So again, I started working out when I was like 13, 14 doing physio, and then I was working out in my basement at the local gym beside the high school, so 15, 16, and now I'm 17 years old, and I'm working in the fitness industry doing deliveries to gyms, dropping off equipment, treadmills, things like that. I worked at Dotmar for about 5 or 6 years and really learned the basics and how to run a gym. And I noticed a lot of things about different gyms we'd go into, whether it was a small personal training studio or if it was a larger kind of commercial gym, what they did, what kind of cardio they had, what got used a lot, what was always broken down. So things like the elliptical machines, nobody was using ellipticals. It was always treadmills, step mills, or bikes. Ellipticals are kind of more for home use. So eventually when I got into personal training and setting up a gym for myself and my clients and the other trainers, we don't have any ellipticals because they don't get used. So things like that I learned along the way. From there, I was never much of a student. So again, I'm about 17, 18 at this point. I was never much of a student. I temporarily dropped out of high school in my 5th year. I got injured playing football, and I just didn't really have any direction. I told my parents I was going to work full-time at Dotmar, and I was eventually going to take it over. I was a bit delusional, and my parents weren't really too thrilled with that, so eventually they sent me to a private school. From the private school, I ended up getting the credits that I needed to graduate, so I went there for 2 semesters, I believe. Got my credits that I needed, which were good enough to get me into university. I got into phys ed at Brock University. So again, not really knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to work as a strength coach for an NFL team, somewhere along those lines, and I knew I needed a university degree to do that. So I went to Brock, I did phys ed, I tried it, I hated it. I think after like probably 3 or 4 months of being there, I never bought textbooks, I never studied for anything, I never did any homework. I basically showed up to class and would work out in the school gym, and just, again, didn't really work out for me. So in that time, again, I'm in powerlifting, and I was in the main school gym with all the other students and whoever, and I hated it. I couldn't use chalk. I couldn't really deadlift. There was nowhere to kind of do things heavy. And one of the guys that I had met told me about the rowing center. And the rowing center was in the basement of the athletic facility at the end of the hallway, and it was for the rowing team. They had a pool, they had the thing down the middle that you could do your rows and all that. And so they also had another section that had free weights, they had dumbbells, they had a deadlift platform for doing power cleans and snatches and stuff. They had an old broken lat pull down, couple other machines I don't really remember, a dip station. And I was like, this is perfect. This is all I need. I can use chalk, I can lift, I can put on good music. So I went down there, I started working out in the rowing center, and although I wasn't an athlete for the school, I was basically out lifting everybody. So a couple of the guys there on the rugby team started asking me questions. I showed them my program. I was kind of a mix between like the 5x5 program and some Westside Barbell, which I had learned about. And again, wrote them some programs. They started getting strong. A couple guys, we started lifting together. There was myself, one of my roommates, another guy from one of the other student housing, and two of his buddies who played in the rugby team. So 3 rugby players, and then me and one of my roommates. We started lifting, and we started the Brock Powerlifting Club. I created a Facebook page for it. We go on there. There was 5 or 6 members, and we'd all meet up. We'd lift. We'd kind of do our thing. And a couple other guys started to join. I think when I left, there was maybe 10 people on the Facebook group. And that was sort of my first experience bringing people together to work out kind of as a team or a group. So that was a cool experience. And actually, about 3 years ago, I'm in here, I'm training on a Saturday, and a couple kids show up and they're working out, and one of them had a Brock powerlifting shirt. And I was thinking, like, no way, like it can't be the same thing. So I said, hey, where are you guys from? So we're from Brock University. I said, I assume you're part of the powerlifting club? And they're like, yep. And I said, do you know where that started? And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I was there in 2009, and I essentially started that powerlifting club. There was 5 or 6 of us. We would work out together. We never got clothing made. We weren't official. We didn't work. But it was cool to see that it started there almost 10 years ago. And when I left, so I dropped out of university after 1 year. I left. Greg stopped lifting because he smashed his toes real bad. But those 3 other rugby guys, they kind of kept going with it. And I guess from there it grew and grew. And like 7 or 8 years later, these guys walk in with the Brock powerlifting shirts. It was really cool to see where something that I had started so long ago that kind of had impact and kept going. At that point, I left university, and I wasn't too sure again now what I wanted to do, because I couldn't do the strength coach thing for the pro teams. So I had got in contact with a guy who owned a sports facility in Worcester, Ohio, which was about, I think, an hour and a half from Columbus, Ohio, which is where Westside Barbell is located. Westside Barbell being the mecca of powerlifting, strongest team in the world. This guy who owned this, it was called Superior Athletics. He owned Travis Bell. He owned the facility, and I reached out to him and I asked him if I could come down and if I could learn from him and basically intern. I think I went down for 2 weeks maybe, and I paid him to go there. It wasn't free, so I paid him to go there. I paid him maybe $500 per week to go and learn from him how he would train his athletes, how he would structure group workouts, all these different things. So I borrowed my parents' car and I drove myself to Worcester, Ohio, and booked a hotel room. I stayed in basically like a motel while I was there. I had my little mini fridge. I'd go to Walmart, I'd get my food that I needed. I'd go to Applebee's in the evening just by myself to eat. And I remember sitting there by myself eating, and like one of the first night or two that I was there, and the woman says, oh, how many are you expecting? I said, just one. And she was like, okay. So anyways, I order my food, and halfway through the meal, she comes and she's like, so where are you from? And because I guess she noticed my Canadian accent or whatever, and I said, I'm from Canada. I told her what I was doing, and I think it was pretty slow that night, and she sat down across from me at the table, this waitress, and she was just asking me what I was doing, thought it was cool. I don't think she actually cared. I think she was just kind of sitting there, so I'm not sitting there alone by myself in an Applebee's eating. So that was pretty cool, because I went back a couple nights after, again, sat there, and she was telling me about her kids and everything, and it was a pretty cool experience, something that I'll probably never forget, just because I went there by myself. So from there, I would meet Travis at his gym at 6 a.m. We train the young guys from about 6 till 8. They'd go to school. And then again, in the evening or after school, they'd had football. So they had football from like probably 4 to 6 p.m. And then they'd come back. If they didn't come in the morning, we trained more guys from about 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. During the day, he had some one-on-one clients. People would come to his facility. It was a small facility, but he would train people there, and he would teach me. He would teach me, again, programming. He taught me the Westside Barbell method because he was actually a world record holder, bench press only guy, a bench press only athlete at Westside. So he explained to me the methods of it. I had to create my own templates, and he sort of taught me things about how to track my sessions, how to do everything involved with personal training and group sessions. Nothing about advertising, not how to get clients, but how to actually run the business. I gained so much from that. I think that going down there was a life-changing experience. I actually got to go to Westside and train there. I hit a bench PR. I benched 385 while I was there, and it was just an awesome experience being surrounded by those guys. And the Westside Barbell that you see on the TV and the movies and stuff, you see it on Netflix right now. I was there in 2009, 2010. It's basically what you see. It's no bullshit. You go in, you work, and there's no frills, basically. So when I came back from Ohio, I basically started working. I went full force. Personal training. I coached high school football that September at my old high school. I helped a couple of the guys there with their training programs, and I had started training some people at a smaller gym called Empire Fitness down about 20 minutes south of where I lived. So it was a bit of a drive. It wasn't really local to my clients or where my network of people were where I grew up. So I had one or two people that I had trained for maybe 2-3 months at this smaller gym, and I was driving home one day, and I was kind of taking the back roads, and I went through an industrial area, and I noticed a sign hanging above an automotive garage that said Intrafit. And so immediately I turned around, I went back, I pulled in, and this was about maybe 7-8 o'clock at night, and I met Mike. Mike had rented the facility or rented the automotive garage maybe 3 or 4 months before, and he had just put his sign up, so that's why I noticed it for the first time. He had just hung his sign that day or the day before, and I went in, introduced myself, asked him what it was all about. He had a bunch of kettlebells. It was kind of like a CrossFit gym, a CrossFit box. It had kettlebells, rings, boxes, medicine balls, a lot of open space, the squares on the ceiling for doing wall ball, things like that. And the next day I went back, and I had written up a proposal because I had equipment in my basement. Like I said, my parents let me set up a small gym in the basement, and I had written up a proposal to Mike, and basically said, if I bring all my equipment in and all your clients can use it, can we split some sort of rent? Can I work out a rent that I can pay you every month, and then I can train my clients here? It was about 5 minutes from my house. Again, my network of people where I grew up playing hockey, football, baseball, went to high school, was right in that central area. So it was really a no-brainer for me to try and get in there. He said, yep, no problem. So I want to say a couple days later, me and my dad brought all my equipment over and set it up, and some of that equipment that I had from my basement is still in the gym today. The treadmill that we have in the middle back here, I bought that 2 years after I had said this to Mike and started bringing my clients there. I bought that treadmill for $700. It was a commercial treadmill. We needed a treadmill in there, and we still use it today 10 years later. So basically what happened from that point was I started working with clients. I offered training to my parents' friends. It was 5 minutes away from the house. I remember I was charging guys $20. I just needed to get the experience, get my name out. I didn't invite the guys from the football team to come work out for free. I was already paying rent. I had a key. I could go in when I wanted, and just started to take advantage of every opportunity I could. I ran men's group workouts. So my dad and a bunch of his buddies, they came in, and my dad was getting jacked and his buddies were getting jacked. And it just sort of grew from there. It was a natural growth. Like I said, I took advantage of every opportunity. So Mike offered for me to start doing his 6 a.m. boot camps. I did them for free for like 6 to 8 months. And then eventually I took over those boot camps, and then that became my boot camp. He was about 10 or 13 years older than me. So he had a lot more experience in personal training, and he was at the point where he didn't want to do 6 a.m.s anymore. He was kind of growing out of it, and he was starting a family and things like that. He kind of was just, he didn't want to, he wanted to have a bit more work-life balance. I was young. I was ready to take on anything, and it was a good experience. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and I'd see people warming up, running down the sidewalks to and from the beer store. I'd see people doing lunges in the parking lot. I'd open the gym. I'd write the workout on the board, and then boom, 15 people would be smashing out this workout. Get the music pumping, and then I basically did training like that at this gym for about 3.5 years. Myself and Mike. There was 3 other guys who had come on board at the same time. One of them who's still with us today, Rodrigo. And over those years, I gained so much experience in terms of training different types of people. One of the women who Mike trained, his personal training client, Mike did a lot of contest prep, so bodybuilders, bikini, figure, physique athletes, and I was more of the sports guy. So she worked for, I think, CBC at the time, and she was, or TSN maybe, as an anchor or a broadcaster. And there was an opportunity that came up to be on CBC Hockey Night in Canada. And me being a sports guy, she asked me if I was interested, and I said yes. So I agreed to do this. Basically what it was I was going to be speaking on the Friday night in front of 100 coaches, 100 local GTHL hockey coaches, so that's like our rep leagues, 100 coaches about the importance of off-season training and dryland training. I had never created a PowerPoint before. I didn't really have much experience with speaking in public or any of that stuff, but I said yes anyways, and I was going to figure it out. So I think my mom helped me create a PowerPoint, and I had it up behind me. Dan Pekosik, dryland trainer. I had all these images and stuff, and then I had my piece of paper that I would read off of. And to take it one step further, there was going to be 100 coaches. I think I printed out 75 copies of what I was going to be speaking about, and I went to Staples or the dollar store or something. I bought a bunch of hardcover folders. I printed out a sticker with my company logo on it. It was called Powerful Athlete Training at the time. So they had Powerful Athlete Training on the front. On the inside, it had a sample dryland workout that the coaches could take and implement at their next practice, just using basically body weight, a couple cones, and some skipping ropes. So they would do that at the arena. And I included my pamphlet of my services, my costs and everything, a card, and I think a copy of what I was speaking about. So every coach more or less had this handout, so it looked really professional. I brought 2 people to come and help me, who were 2 clients of mine. They worked out at the gym. I got us all matching tracksuits, and I got the logo printed on it to make us look legit, make us look like a real company. And this was one of the biggest opportunities for me in terms of growing my personal training business. From there, I kind of established myself as an expert in sports training. I did that for free. I didn't get paid. So I was on CBC Hockey Night in Canada. I was up there with all these professional NHL coaches talking to these other coaches, and I did it for free. On the Saturday and Sunday, we trained between 500 and 800 kids in the arena, teaching them dry land, showing the coaches how they could implement it. It was busy. It was really busy. It was a great experience. And from there, I want to say the next week, the week after, I had teams starting to call me. So I picked up a girls hockey team, 16, 17 years old, and they hired me as their dryland coach. So now I'm making $350 an hour coaching these or training these girls before their practice. So I'd show up an hour before practice. I'd take them out on the backfield. I'd make them run sprints. I'd make them do lunges, dynamic warm-ups, things like that. I made them run hills. I'd bring cones. I'd bring agility ladders and take them through it. Then we'd go back into the arena. I'd make them run stairs. I'd make them do push-ups, sit-ups, all these different things. And like I said, I was making $350 an hour. So I would do maybe 4 of those or 5 of those a week through different teams as it grew. So now things were starting to really click. I was training people. I was doing my 6 a.m. boot camps with my general fitness people. I had a couple one-on-one sessions that I had gotten through referrals, through parents, friends, and stuff. And now I had the hockey teams. And I think towards the end of my 3.5, 4 years there as an independent trainer before Torque opened, there was months where I was making 20 grand a month. So I went out and I bought myself a truck and I paid cash. And then I went and bought myself a 1967 Mustang for 10 grand and I paid cash. And then I went and bought new rims and I paid cash. I went and bought myself a snowmobile. I was starting to see the potential of being a personal trainer. Now, obviously, there was months that were slow, where I kind of let off the throttle a bit in terms of advertising and stuff. But there was months, like I said, where I was making 20 grand a month. So if I had kept that up and did the advertising every month as a personal trainer, you could be making over 200 grand a year if you're smart about how you're approaching your business. You can't focus only on one people. My company was called Powerful Athlete Training, but I was training the regular Joes. I was doing boot camps. I was training women. I was training football, hockey teams, and again doing powerlifting. From there, I got an opportunity to work with a CFL training camp, and they asked me to be the trainer for the 225-pound bench press test. So I unbolted the bench together. I threw it in the back of my truck that I bought and showed up to the field about half hour before it was going to start. I brought all the equipment in. I set it up, and I'm standing there at the bench. I got my shirt on and everything, and all these guys start coming out, warming up, and I'm thinking like, holy shit, these guys are twice the size of me, twice as strong. But it was one of those times where they walked up to me. I'm standing there in front of the bench. They're all looking at me to tell them what to do. And I couldn't say, well, guys, I've never done this before, so let's figure it out. I had to say, okay, I'm going to give you all a number, and we're going to go in order. You're going to go first. You're going to go second, third, fourth. We're going to throw 135 on the bar. We're going to put 185 on the bar. You're going to each do it for 5 to 10 reps. We're going to put 225 on. We're going to keep that same order, and you're all going to go in succession. I said there should be no rest between this. Once he's done, he gets up. That guy over there is going to mark down how many he did, and then the next guy's going to step in. I had to take charge and force myself into a situation that I wasn't comfortable with, but it ended up paying off in the long run. Again, I did this one for free. Now, from here, I was able to use this and put it on my website. So now on my website, I had as seen on CBC hockey. That led me into talking with the guys and becoming friends. So after they did their bench press, the next thing they had to do was like the 40-yard dash. They had to do a broad jump. So at this point, my job was done, but I wasn't going to pack up and go home. I was going to go and hang out with these guys and see what they were doing. And again, me being an athlete, it was just natural hanging out with these guys, talking shit, just saying, what, is that all you can do? You can't jump farther, you can't run faster. Kind of just razzling them a bit and getting a bit of competitiveness going. I was feeling pretty good after doing a good job with the bench press. So From there, a bunch of those guys added me on Facebook, and I ended up picking up, I think, 2 or 3 CFL players as clients. So again, I did that for free, that part of it. But then where the money came in was now I'm training CFL players. So again, I had 2 or 3 of these guys. They'd come in, we would train, or I would train them, put them through these workouts, hopefully get them good results, help them with their nutrition. I wasn't certified at this point. Again, just kind of help them through it. And now my reputation has grown. I'm training these guys, and I'm getting now high school football players, because now I can put on there, I can post their videos on Facebook, on Twitter. There was no Instagram at the time, it was Facebook and Twitter. And then I started training more high school athletes. And then I picked up a couple training sessions with the girls from the Lingerie Football League, the Toronto Triumph, the original team, before they had this big issue with safety and stuff. So the original team of girls. I got that through Krista Ford, who was a friend of mine from high school, and she was playing on that team, and she asked if I could help with a couple of their workouts. And so I said, yeah, come on out to the football field. I brought some equipment. I brought boxes. I brought tires. Brought some kettlebells. I brought a sled. I brought music, and I brought a big Gatorade water jug, and I bought a bunch of styrofoam cups. So again, making myself look legit. I didn't just show up as a dude that was, half-assed. I took advantage of every opportunity, and I feel like I really kind of put my heart into it, or put everything, put a good effort into it, with the hopes that it would pay off. And again, it did. So then some of these girls would come and train with me. They joined my boot camps. I did some one-on-ones with them. Maybe they had a friend, or they had a brother who wanted to get stronger. So again, growing and growing. And I did those workouts for free for them, but the payoff came down the road. Excuse me. So now we're at 3.5, 4 years of being a personal trainer. Again, I'd made a lot of money. I had done a lot of really cool things. The gym was growing. We had 5 trainers, and I think together we had about 100 clients between all of us. I had about maybe 40 myself in the gym, and then plus all those extra things I was doing. Mike had a bunch, Josh, Rod, and then there's another guy, Len. So around this time, 3.5, 4 years of doing this, this is now 2012, and a gym just down the street from us had closed down. Now, we were operating by appointment only, so you couldn't just buy a membership and show up. We had clients that still had memberships at the big box gyms, Good Life, Premier, LA Fitness, all those different ones. And when this gym closed down, I saw an opportunity, so I approached Mike about partnering up and trying to find a location nearby to open a full gym. He was on board with it, so we looked at a couple different locations. Our main points were they had to have a garage door, they had to have high ceilings, and they had to have free parking. It took maybe 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 months to find something suitable. And one of our clients, one of our personal training clients, was a real estate agent, so she helped us get the deal. This is where we're at now, Torque. This is what I'm talking about. And it was actually 2 units. So there was this unit, and then the unit next door. And the wall would go right across, but both units were available for rent. One of the things we worked into our lease was being able to knock down the wall and open it up. So we signed the lease. This is I think this is February 2013 now. So now I've been training people for about 4 or 5 years. I've built up a good client base. On the day that we opened here as Torque Barbell, so Mike and I partnered, and we opened Torque, we had 100 members. So in terms of our growth, where I see a lot of gyms go wrong, they open up with no members, or they open up with 20 people. And unfortunately, those first 2 or 3 years are going to be so incredibly hard as it is. If you don't have the clients right off the bat, you're going to be setting yourself way behind. So, like I said, we negotiated the contract here. We set it up so we had a month of overlap. We took possession of this place on May 1st, and we were supposed to be out of our old gym on June 3rd. So we had 32 days or whatever that is, 33 days. During that month, I would go and I would do my 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. sessions, my boot camp with my clients, and I'd come here for 9 o'clock and I'd start working. Mike, I was more of a hands-on guy. I was good at building stuff. My father, he taught me a lot about building, and we were always renovating, building decks, things like that. So for me, kind of doing the manual labor was a lot more natural. So Mike, he would take on the brunt of the training with the clients at the old gym. I would do my 3 sessions a day that I had to do, and then I'd come here and I would work all day till about 10, 11 o'clock at night, because we only had 30 days and there was a lot to do. My dad would come in after work, so he worked his own full-time job. He'd come here at about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and help me till, again, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. My mother was around. I had buddies that came and helped. In that month, it was probably the busiest month of my life, but I wouldn't change it at all. It put a crunch on things, and if we had 3 months to take our time, we would have been 2 months behind on rent. We would be 2 months less on rent that we've now gotten from memberships. But I work better on timelines like that. I'm not somebody to go through things slowly. If there's something to be done, I'm going to do it 12, 13, 14 hours a day until it's done. I'm not going to do 6 hours a day here, 6 hours a day there, and let it draw out. So for me, this is the way I worked. We came in, we demoed everything, we knocked the wall down, we cut the floors, we did all the plumbing, we did all the electrical, built the front desk. What else did we do in here? The ceiling was full of old wires from years and years of different businesses being in. So I remember one night I was in here at midnight, and I guess I had left my phone down somewhere, and my mom was trying to call me. I was living at home at the time. I was very fortunate to be living at home at the time, and my parents said, while you're building this business, you don't have to pay rent. You still have to pay your own bills, you have to pay your own food, all those things, but you don't have to pay rent because we know what you're trying to do. And that was huge. I think being young and doing that at the right time, if I was to do that now with expenses and mortgage payments and things like that, it would have been much tougher. So I'm very, very thankful for my parents and what they helped me out there, and also gave me the push to keep going. I was tired, I was beat, but they were always encouraging, always supportive, and they saw the potential. So anyways, that night I'm in here midnight and I'm pulling wires. I'm up on the 16-foot ladder, and my mom comes in the door. She goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "What?" She goes, "It's midnight." And I'd been in here working all day. I didn't realize what time it was. I knew it was late. And I was in here by myself, and she was freaked out because if I could have wiped out or something, fallen 16 feet, I probably would have smashed my head open. But things like that I remember so clearly. Another thing I remember was there was all the old studs and metal pieces and rebar and stuff, and I'd leave it at the back, and I'd leave the back door open, and there was a scrap metal guy and his wife who would come by and they'd pick up the scrap metal usually every 2-3 days. And one day I was in here by myself. I had just ordered pizza. It was like, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night, and they came by. They said, "Hey, what's going on?" "Oh yeah, can we take it?" I said, "Yeah, for sure." I said, "You guys want some pizza?" And they came in, and we sat at the front, and we had pizza and beer together. So it was a pretty fun time. Again, a lot of work, but memories that I'll always remember. So anyways, myself, my dad, my buddies, Mike's uncle helped us with the plumbing and some of the electrical. My grandfather was an electrician, so he kind of checked over everything, make sure it was legit. We knocked the wall down, me and my cousin. I rented a scissor lift, and he went and he painted everything. And I remember I left him for like 2 or 3 hours, and I came back that day, and he was using a spray gun. And he came back, and he was like albino. He was like just pure white, covered in white paint. And he had his goggles on. He didn't realize, because there's no mirrors in here. He could see it on his arms. And I came in and I busted out laughing, because I looked at this guy when he took his glasses off. He looked like a raccoon, just white everywhere, and just his eyes. It was pretty funny. So things like that were great experiences. On the final week at the old gym, we were still training people up to the day that we moved. I got some pictures of a boot camp happening in the gym while we're moving equipment out. All the mirrors have been pulled off, and we're bringing equipment in here and starting to make that move over. Now, we had used, over those 3.5, 4 years, we had accumulated a lot of equipment. My parents' house was stocked with equipment in the basement, in the garage. We had our personal training studio full of equipment, and when we opened, we had a lot of things already, but we still had to buy more. So we had to buy cardio machines and dumbbells and things like that. So I think we spent 30 grand on our first initial purchase. When we opened, we had no debt. We did everything prepaid with cash or certified checks, or whatever, because we wanted to create the expenses so that year we could use those expenses for the equipment to offset our income and our tax. So we spent 30 grand. We bought all the equipment that we needed. Now, we didn't buy it brand new. We bought it all used. We had some connections with people that we knew who had used equipment. So we went in one day and we picked that. We said, we need this, we need that. We picked out all of our equipment up to 30 grand. And 2 days before we were going to open here, it all started to come in. It started getting delivered. So we had trucks coming, dropping it all off. We had the field turf in, and that was pretty surreal to see the equipment coming in. On the day we opened, June 3rd, 2013, we had 100 members. We had 4 trainers, no staff, and we did our first boot camp that day. It was a pretty awesome experience to see a month worth of work come together, and the accumulation of kind of 4 years as an independent trainer has now grown into an 8,000 square foot gym. So in our first year, we didn't have a membership system, we didn't have a computer, we didn't have any of that stuff. Again, we had no staff. I would do the morning from 6 a.m. till I believe it was 2 p.m. and then Mike would do 2 to 10. So we both worked 8-hour shifts. We grew and grew. We did our advertising. One thing I forgot to mention about when I was an independent trainer was advertising. Sure, social media and stuff was growing, but the biggest form of advertising was flyers. I printed up these coupons that were about that big, and I would just go everywhere. They were 1 week free, and 1 week free of, I want to say boot camps. I put them in everybody's door, in their car, in their windshield. Anywhere I could think of, I would put these flyers. I would also go to the arenas. I'd have a poster, like about that big. I'd post it. I'd have my price list, and I'd have tearaway sheets, or I'd have my business card stapled. So anybody who's at the arena who's maybe interested in getting their kids stronger or faster or whatever could take my card, go on my website. They'd see As Seen on CBC, they'd see CFL, they'd see all these things. I looked like a professional. Again, I'm just trying to figure it out, but it looked really legit. I got people great results, and that's how I built the personal training side of things. Now at the gym was a little different, because now we're offering hours. So we were open 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. We had to make sure the gym was staffed all the time. So I did the morning 8, Mike did the afternoon 8. After about a year and a half, Mike and I weren't really on the same page anymore. Things weren't really working out. We were wanting to see the business go in different directions. So I ultimately bought him out. When he left, he took 3 other trainers with him and about 40 members. So that was really a pretty big setback. That was in the first year and a half, and we had just spent all this time, or I just spent all this time building up the business, and then to have somebody leave like that and all those members leave, it was tough. But I stayed committed to it, and I'm thankful I did, because here we are today. But basically, in those first 2 to 3 years, we didn't have enough members to pay the bills. So thankfully, I had done very well as an independent trainer, and I had a lot of money saved. So every month, whatever the shortfall was to pay our expenses, hydro, heat, air conditioning. We're not air conditioned, but the change rooms are, and the front reception. But whatever the shortfall was, I paid that out of pocket to keep the doors open, keep the lights on. I wasn't able to obviously keep up the workload, so once Mike was gone, I was doing 16-hour days. I was doing 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. It was a grind. There was days where my mom would come in for 4 hours so I could go home and sleep. My sister would come and she'd man the front desk so I could go home and sleep. We had some other trainers. One of our head trainers, Brett, he was a huge help at this point in helping things stay running. Again, those days where I needed to get a bit of downtime or just to kind of unwind for a bit, he was always here to take over and help run the gym. So then eventually, once we got to a point, he was getting paid for it. But again, there was an expense that we'd created. We didn't have the membership to pay for that, so I'm paying out of pocket. I did this for about 2 to 3 years. There was times where I would get so down and I'd get frustrated because I couldn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. It just felt like I was constantly burning through all this money that I'd saved up just to keep the lights on so other people could work out and other people could get paid. I didn't really see any sort of long-term growth or end point for myself. But thankfully, my parents, like I said, they really pushed me through those times, and they said, yeah, that's really tough, but what are you going to do? You go back to personal training 8 to 11 hours a day? Sure, you were making great money, but you had no life. What about when you want to have kids, when you want to get married, all these things? They said, you need to build this business so that you can build your life. And I'm so thankful for them that they pushed me through those times, because again, here we are today. I think towards year 4, we started to become profitable. But rather than taking that money and saving it, so now the gym was staffed maybe, we were open 96 hours a week, I believe. I think the gym was staffed for maybe 40 of those hours. So I was still doing about 55 hours a week myself. But it got to the point where I was able to start to focus on other things. When we started to turn a profit and actually make a bit of money, I reinvested all the money back into the gym and bought new bars, more plates, new equipment. We upgraded things. We expanded the change rooms. We put in new floors. We were always improving. And then so that was year 4 to 5, everything was reinvested back in. And then in year 5, I think was the first time that we saw a profit at the end of the year where there was actually money in the bank. That was a pretty cool experience to see at the end of the year that your sales are now higher than your expenses. For the previous 5 years, it was always the opposite. So now I was starting to see some real growth in this. We were getting out in the community more because now I was able to, again, have a bit of downtime and focus on other things. We did more community involvement. We did stuff for the Etobicoke Humane Society. We did free water booths at the community event where they shut down the street, the main street up about 10 minutes north, and we set up a booth. We had our logos, we gave out flyers, we did free water for everybody that was doing the event. Things like that really helped grow the business and reach out to more of the community. I think around now year 5 or 6, we were at about 400 members. So again, we were starting to turn a profit even more. We were starting to have more savings. We bought more equipment. We upgraded things. We bought competition plates and stuff for the powerlifting team. We started to do more clothing. So again, not taking that money for myself and going on trips and spending it the way I was as a personal trainer and having fun with it. Now I was reinvesting it back into the gym to make more money. So all the clothing, everybody walking down the street now is a walking advertisement. So we gave away so many free shirts. We hosted all kinds of competitions, powerlifting competitions. We had sponsors come in. We'd have 150 people in here watching these competitions. It really started to grow, and again, see the end point. And I was able to think about the next step. And then around like maybe, again, year 5 or 6, online started to really take off. We had tried a bit of online training in the beginning. We did through email, and we offered up like a 2-month trial period for online clients. And then we wanted to take it more legit. So we put on our website online training. You could select your trainer. We priced it at a point where it was enough money that people had an investment so they'd be committed to it, but not so much money that they couldn't afford it. I think that as you're trying to grow and trying to build the business, you need to make it affordable for people so that you can get your name out. If it's too expensive and you only have 10 people doing it, well, maybe those 10 people have 5 friends each, so there's 50 people. But if you have 100 people doing it with 5 friends each, that's 500 people. That's where I realized you got to price it. You have 2 price points. You have your mid price, and then you have your higher price, which is your personal training and things like that. But the memberships, we wanted to make them affordable for people so we could get the name out and create a long-term facility that is not only going to be for 5 years. I'm thinking 30 years from now, I still want Torque to be here. I want these kids from the high schools to be in here lifting and getting jacked and telling their buddies about it. And then when those guys go into university, they come back in the summer, and then maybe their younger brother, he's going into high school and he's just starting. But if our prices were too high, we would miss out on all that. And that's kind of the revolving door. I think something I learned in personal training very, very early on is that I'm not going to train you for your whole life. It's not going to happen. You're going to move away. You're going to get injured. You're going to want to go try something else. Maybe your life situation changes. So I want to give you the best experience that I can in that time so that you'll refer me and my services in the gym to your friends. And that's how it's going to continue to grow and create a long-term business. We have some plans coming up for growth down the road. Again, pushing more online, more clothing. I'm really starting to talk more about my experience as a trainer and helping coach and sort of mentor other trainers about how they can build their business and leave a corporate gym. I never worked in a corporate gym because I couldn't bear to get paid a fraction of what the client was paying when I'm the one doing the work. I did apply as one of my first jobs when I was 17 or 18 at a Good Life, but I didn't take the job because, again, I couldn't bear to throw that money away. So again, trying to teach people that there's more in the fitness industry than just working in a commercial gym. You can make it as an independent trainer. You got to take advantage of every opportunity you can. You got to build your online business. You got to get clothing made and make yourself look legit. Every new client that you get, it might cost you $10 per client, but what about when that guy is jacked 2 or 3 months down the road, 4 months down the road, and he's now wearing his shirt out, and someone says, dude, what have you been doing? Like, you look huge. He says, oh, I've been working out with Big Steve down here at Torque Barbell. That's how you're gonna grow. So I wanna help other trainers build their business and help use my experiences to help other people. I don't know everything. I've done a lot of things wrong, but I've also done a lot of things right, and I've learned a lot. And again, I don't claim to know everything. I don't claim to say that my way is the best way, but I'm at a point now where the gym, I should say, is at a point now where we're fully staffed. We have, I believe, 15 staff members at this point. We have over 400 members, 450 members. We're profiting every year, and we're helping people. We're actually making a difference in people's training. Our boot camps are full every night and every morning. We're doing hundreds of sessions every week with our clients. Again, it's really been an awesome growth over my 10 years as a trainer and now gym owner, and I feel like I can help some people. And my experiences have been authentic, they've been real. I've done the work, I still do the work every day. I'm still doing payroll, I'm still doing staff calendars. Whenever we hire a new staff member, I'm doing training. I'm going to get keys cut. I'm fixing machines when the cables break. I'm still here every day and I'm doing it. And I think that some people, they start a business and then they hire other people to do the work for them, and that's great. But this is what I love doing. I love fitness, I love training, I love running the gym, I love all of our members and our staff and everything to do with it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way. And if I can help you guys a little bit to make your business successful and make your business grow, that's what this is all about. And that's why I'm creating these videos. So I appreciate you listening, I appreciate you watching. And if you have any questions or comments, you can find me on Instagram, Dan Pekosik PL, or torquebarbell.com or at torquebarbell, and drop a comment below, and I'd be happy to help. Thank you.